Welcome to our Monday vlog. I am so excited today to have such a fabulous guest. I have Susan Freidman, who is an internationally recognized niche marketing expert and how-to coach. She is a prolific author, having written 14 books, including her bestsellers, Meeting and Event Planning for Dummies, I love that, and Niches to Riches, How to Make It Big in a Small Market. She's appeared on a variety of radio talk shows and as a guest expert on CNN's Financial Network and Bloomberg's Small Business. She's the owner of Aviva Publishing and dedicated herself to working with self-published and nonfiction authors to bring their books to market and find the right target audience to deliver their message. Susan also hosts the very successful weekly podcast on Book Marketing Mentors, which I was just a part of too. So welcome, Susan. I'm really excited to have you.
Thank you, Juliet, and hi to all your fans and followers. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, don't you just love her accent? I just love every human accent is so cool.
Yeah, people pay me to talk like this. It's really wonderful. You know, if I was in England, they wouldn't do that.
There you
I
go.
sound like everybody else.
I was just going to say, nobody pays me to talk like this. No.
Yeah. Go to England. They would. They love American accents.
Okay, I'll have to go there. Although all the princes are taken, I'm not quite sure. So I'm really excited to have you here today because I don't think that people realize that before they ever start their book journey, they really need to know what their niche is and what their message is. And you probably see this too, being a publisher, is that people come in when you talk to them and you say, who's your target audience? And they say, everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody. And they don't really understand the nuances of niching. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the importance of niching, and it's really finding the right audience for your message. People get a bit confused with that word. They don't really know how to pronounce it. Niche, niche, so it's a French word. It means a corner. And so what you're doing is you're finding a corner in the marketplace that you can own, or at least that there's fewer competition in that arena. So it's really important for an author who wants to stand out, in the crowd. As well as I, there are how many thousands of titles that are coming onto the market every single month. And it's easy just to drown in that ocean of titles. So the more that you can target a particular audience with your message, the easier it is for you to be noticed and be seen really as an expert in that environment. And that's really what I like to work with my authors on, is getting them to be recognized as an expert in their field.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fantastic. And for those of you who are not really grasping how down you need to get on this, or how finite you need to get on this, I did a study one time for one of my authors who had a divorce book, and she was insistent that we put it into divorce because she handled every category. The reality was that if you search for divorce books on Amazon, there are over 22,000 books. So the likelihood of yours being up at the top is pretty slim to none. However, if you are able to niche down into, let's say I help divorced couples with children, let's say a toddler to 3, or teenagers, those are entirely different groups of people. And if you actually put in like toddlers, you help toddlers, there are only about 70 books. So that's the importance of really deciding where you're going to be in that marketplace and really niching down on a particular area that you service.
Exactly. It's interesting you should talk about the divorce, because my girlfriend started a blog which has turned into multiple books on dating after 40. her
Mhm.
husband, after 20 years, decided to leave her. And then, she's left and she's over 40. And it's a whole different scene going out and trying to date. And that's a very lucrative niche out there. So absolutely, if you've got a subject matter, if you're in sales, for instance, I had an author who specialized in the heating and air conditioning environment. Well, a sales book in that environment is going to go a lot further than just saying, I've got a book on sales. Well, da-de-da, there are hundreds and thousands of sales titles out there. So you're absolutely right. So thank you for, defining that even better.
Well, it's not just that, but most of the people who write books are entrepreneurs, and they often come to us with their platforms wondering, why am I not connecting with an audience? And most of the time it's because you're not specialized enough. People aren't aware of those special things that you bring to a market because your market's so broad. So this is to me, the $100 million question. What's the biggest challenge and obstacle for authors committing to a niche market? Because it's so hard to get people to commit.
Yes, it really is. And I get this almost every day when I speak to authors. And it's like you said, you ask them who their target is, and it's everyone, or it's a group of people here. I was on the phone with one of my authors yesterday, in fact, and she's written a book on depression. And she said, oh, it's really good for therapists and school counselors and for superintendents. And I want to speak to this group and that group. And then, oh, by the way, I can get it over here. I was like, we have got to just channel this so that you can get your message out to the right people, rather than, be all over the place, because that's so easy and it takes so much energy to do that. So really understanding, and I think it's just an education of realizing that it's okay to commit to one. I think the fear is, oh, that means I can't sell to anybody else. What if somebody in another industry wants to buy my book? Well, that's all right. You can sell it to them. It doesn't mean you have to put your energy into that market because you sold 2 books to somebody in a completely different marketplace. So just understanding. And so I think between what you do and I do, Juliet, the education is just so critical for authors to realize how important it is to find the right audience. And I think the other part to this too is the message, is really honing down what is their message. I had another author over the weekend who is going to give her first talk to a women's group. And I said, well, okay, we'll list out your benefits, your features. What do you want to say? What is your message? And what does that mean? What are the benefits to that? Well, she wrote out things like, well, I'm going to share my story about my struggles. I'm like, that's adjunct to the message, the point that you want to make. So really narrowing it down in terms of the message and the different points that you want to make and what that means to your target audience is critical.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree with that. And I think that's where a lot of authors really miss it, is they get into their story and their process without really shining the light on how that alone doesn't help others. People want the stuff that's from the heart, and the process is from the head.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And it's like, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
What am I going to get out of this? So every time I have a conversation with someone, I say, you're calling up because it's what's in it for you. You want to know, what can I give you? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's, in the same way, your target audience wants to know what you can give them, because that's what's going to endear you to them, to buy your book, to buy by your programs, your workshops, any coaching, whatever you want to sell. And that's what's really important now. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very important. Now, there are a lot of benefits to niching down. And one of them that I'm going to mention before I hand it over to you from the marketing standpoint is it's expensive to market to everyone. That's why a niche is so important, is you can go broke marketing to that everyone group. What are some of the other benefits?
Exactly. I mean, that's probably one of the most important ones, is understanding the efficiency of marketing, because as you rightly say, it can get very expensive, and there's only so many things that you can do on a shoestring or a zero budget. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be prepared to invest in some marketing, and to do it more efficiently and more effectively, you can do it when you're channeling to one particular market. That's going to make it so much easier. The other benefit too is it's much more profitable. You know, you've got fewer competitors in the marketplace. So you're no longer a generalist, but you're a specialist. And you just have to think and take that, let's say, into the medical profession and look at the difference in terms of profitability of what a specialist surgeon makes versus a generalist internist makes. You know, a surgeon who, let's say, is a cardiac, what is it? I've lost the words
like
now for it. A cardiologist who specializes in pediatrics. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a pediatric cardiologist. So I speak for a living, you know, but the words don't always come out.
Not today, you don't.
Yeah. So, you know, a pediatric cardiologist is going to make far more because he's so specialized than a general surgeon, let's say. So in the same way, you know, an author is going to be paid more for their speaking if they're specialized in a particular niche, a special marketplace. And so it's far more profitable. The more specialized, in fact, the higher your fee. Why? Because there's nobody else on the market, in the marketplace, doing what you do. So if somebody wants what you do, guess what? You can write your own ticket for that.
Right. But another part of that, though, is the messaging, because I know for the longest time, people didn't understand what I did. They had no idea what platform building was and how it was different than marketing. So that message is really important too.
Absolutely. And the branding, you know, branding yourself. My first career was working in the trade show arena, and I became a specialist, an expert in that arena. And there was hardly anybody else out there who was published. And so I really stood out from the crowd with my message, and I branded myself as the trade show coach. And so that name alone says what I do, and that's really important. In fact, that's one of my strategies in my Riches and Niches book. And it's the first strategy is choose a name that says what you do. I mean, I started off my life with a name. I was getting really fancy. I called myself Diadem Communications. It's like, what the heck does that mean? So people thought I was in the wireless business, you know. Uh-huh. So, but once I said I was the trade show coach, there's no, you know, ifs, ands, or buts. People know exactly what I'm doing. I'm a coach in the trade show industry.
Right.
So, yes. So, yeah, get away from the fancy, the cutesy. Just tell people what you do. Don't be afraid of that.
We have a saying in our ad agency, don't get creative if you're not creative.
Yes, exactly. I was just getting far too fancy. And, you know, the whole idea of a diadem, most people don't even know what a diadem is, but it's a sign of distinction. It's what the Romans used to wear. You know, the laurel wreaths or a crown is called a diadem. So that's what we went for. But nobody knew what that was. I mean, until I started using it, to be honest with you, I didn't even know either.
Well, I have to tell you, when I named Winsome, I actually used it to describe my personality, and I didn't know what it was either. I took out the thesaurus and looked at what I thought the best fit was. And somebody who was branding came right up to me and said, "That's a horrible name. We have no idea what you do." Okay. So it happens. Even to the best.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Aviva Publishing, Aviva happens to be my middle name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it means spring. So I've got as a logo a little spring that comes up. And yeah, but it just also happens that there's a huge insurance company called Aviva as well. And I have absolutely nothing to do with them, but I wouldn't mind some of their money. Yeah.
We'll have to make that happen.
Yes.
So what is the optimum number of niches that you would recommend for anyone?
Uno.
Good.
I mean, start with one. You know, maximum if you really, really have to, go with two. But the more, that means you're splitting your energy in two. And you've only got X amount of energy and X amount of dollars, let's say, that you're going to invest in your marketing. So why not hone in on that one market? You know, I'm beginning to feel I'm sounding like a stuck record, but, you know, it really is. It's so important because it affects your marketing and everything you do, and you put all your energy. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was in the trade show industry was I started, you know, going elsewhere. And as soon as I did, I lost my focus. And I'm like, Susan, go back to your roots, go back to what you know, where you're considered an expert, and just maximize that and forget about missing out somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's hard, and it takes some. Well, it takes focus, it takes dedication. And, you know, when you're in that market, like you said, if they go in for the divorce market for a certain community, they can look at the blogs, they can look at the websites, they can look at companies that are also interested in the same target audience. There are speaking opportunities. There are usually associations who are looking for speakers. I mean, you're going to get richer on speaking than you are selling books. Right. And you and I've had this conversation before. It's like, you're not going to get rich selling books.
No, I mean, it's all of those other things around it.
I mean, yeah.
So I want to get into something here, because I want people to understand how important, when you're putting your niche together, how building an avatar really helps with that too. You know, knowing, not just like identifying your target market, but having that, like, you know, the demographics, you know, their behaviors, you know, where they hang out. Because one of the things I hear a lot is, oh yeah, I have a niche. It's Jack Canfield's. My audience is Jack Canfield's. You wouldn't believe how many times a year I hear that. My audience is Jack Canfield's audience. But your audience isn't really Jack Canfield's audience, because you're not Jack Canfield. Mm-hmm. So how important do you think it is to build that client avatar and be really precise and just know, like, that's a particular age group, these are the behaviors this people have, this is what they want?
It's critical. It really is, because then you really understand, because you have to know everything about this avatar. It's like, what do they like to have for breakfast in the morning? What keeps them up at night? What are they frightened of? What do they like to do? And more often than not, the authors have written a book about themselves, because it's often their story. Mm-hmm. So chances are that they're talking to somebody just like themselves. And it makes it so much easier, to identify that person. Is it a male? Is it a female? Are they married? Do they have kids? Are they empty nesters? Are they going into a second career? Did they have a divorce? Whatever. They had a tragedy. They got over an addiction. I mean, it's usually the same crowd as, person like yourself, because you've been motivated, inspired to write this book. It's your story. It's often your story that has brought you to writing that book.
No, I definitely agree. And from the marketing aspect, we are moving more and more into the marketing being the consumer experience and everything being experiential. So that's yet another reason you really have to know on your marketing end how you can provide the best consumer experience, not only for your books, but your products and services as well. So I think behaviors are becoming a bigger, more critical factor.
Absolutely. I'm hearing this more and more, is that they call it neuromarketing, I believe. It's really just getting into the brain and how your avatar, your target, how are they thinking? What do they feel? Because there's just so much out there. And if somebody doesn't relate to you, if they don't feel that you're really interested in them and how they can succeed, they're going to go elsewhere. So they really have to feel that you are interested in them, and that you want to see them succeed. And I know this is one of the reasons that you do this, and I do my podcast, the Book Marketing Mentors one, because we're giving such incredible tips and techniques to people who are hungry. I mean, people are hungry for information. So, yeah.
They definitely are. So you have a giveaway for us today. And by the way, not only is Susan giving this away, she is a part of our platform building tips and tricks community. So if you have questions, she's in there and she can respond to your questions as well. So but tell us what you have for us.
So first of all, I've actually got two things that I thought might be useful. Actually, I think I'm going to make it three. I'm going to be really generous today. Wow. How's that, Julia? There's one you don't know about. Okay. So one is 10 questions to find your niche or your niche market. And so these are 10 very distinct questions that you need to be asking to identify that marketplace for yourself. Then I've also put together 112 profitable author marketing income streams. Wow. So those authors out there who want to know how they can make money as well from their book and other ways in which they can make money, that should be interesting. Okay. And then...
Hold on, hint, that's all of you.
Yeah.
Remember, we just said you don't make money from the book, so yes. You need that.
You need something else to help you do it. Yes. Exactly. And then finally, I'd love to give all of your listeners, your viewers, a PDF copy of the Riches and Niches book. So that's awesome. So I will put that together as a zip file, and if they email me at Susan at let's do the easy one, Aviva, and that's AVIVA Pubs, which is short for publication. That's PUB for Bertie, S for sugar.com. So avivapubs.com. So Susan, SUSAN, at avivapubs.com. Tell me that you saw me on Juliet's show, and I will be more than happy to send that to you. And if you would like a 15-minute introductory consultation with me, you can do that as well. So I'll send you a link to sign up for that. So that's 4. Oh my goodness, am I
Wow.
crazy? I'm giving the farm away, Juliet.
This much value. That's awesome. Thank you. Susan, we loved having you today, and
thank you.
I look forward to everybody downloading all this stuff.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.